Hello everyone and welcome! Almost exactly 2 years ago I released a video called Riot Please. In that video I talked about 5 features I would like to see in League of Legends one day. I'm going to tell you now, do not watch that video. Even though I talked about some pretty cool features there, I will repeat them here. And I used to talk like a squeaky toy after a stroke. So don't watch that video unless you're a masochist. So today, not only will we go back to my old requests, and we'll see if Riot fixed any of them, but I also want to add in 5 new cool details that would make League a little bit more interesting for me. So let's look back at that old video. My first point there was Runeterra's map. In 2016, most people still believed that this is the official map of Runeterra. The issue was that even back then, the map had been retconned for about 2 years. So even in the old days, the map wasn't real. So don't bring it up now. However, those were the days before the Piltover update. So not only did we not have a real map anymore, we didn't even have the Medarda map yet. Thankfully, the map problem was partially fixed, as the Medarda map revealed a huge portion of the world. And what it didn't reveal, it hinted at. For example, we know where Demacia and Ionia roughly are because there are nodes and arrows around. The second feature I wanted in League was a replay system. This of course was fixed, and we do have a working integrated replay system in League. There still are some issues however. For example, whenever a new patch arrives, all your old stored game files become useless. That's because all the attributes, stats and data is stored in your client. And whenever a new patch rolls in, it overwrites some of the data that was stored there. This issue could be fixed if Riot decided to store all their champion stats on their own servers. So whenever you launch a replay, it would read all the health and damage values off of the server, instead of the client that changes with every patch. But I understand that this would be far too much work and Riot would essentially have to restructure their entire system. So let's just be happy that we don't have to use LoL replay anymore. And yes, I know that you can play old replays if you have the old clients. The third feature I wanted to see were seasonal maps. And God bless Papa Riot for those. It is strange when you realize that we have now had the updated Summoner's Rift for 4 years already. The update was published on November the 12th, 2014. So we have already had it for a year and a half in 2016. That's when I talked about these features. I kinda understand why back then my past self wanted to see seasonal maps though. It's because in December 2014, we obviously didn't get a winter map since Summoner's Rift was released only 1 month before that. And in 2015, it was still too early and Riot was still fixing some of its issues. The map was remade from scratch after all. This means that we didn't have a festive map for 2 Christmas seasons in a row. If I remember correctly, all we got was a Christmas hat on Baron in 2015. But now that everything's settled down, Riot is free to update the map for whatever season they want. Even Blood Moon got its own version. The fourth feature I wanted to see was different versions of Summoner's Rift. Looking back at the idea, while I still think it would be really cool, I now realize how impractical it would be. The idea was that it would be cool to have the same map of Summoner's Rift rotate in different themes. Maybe one time you play the classic map. Maybe another time it is based in Ionia, and the next time you are playing in Piltover. If it was random, it would be cool to see different setting each time. However, now I know that this would mean that Riot wouldn't be able to create new game modes. If they burned all their resources on Summoner's Rift skins, we would have never seen the Star Guardian event or the excellent project map. And this is directly tied to the fifth feature I wanted to see in League: PvE. To some degree, I did get what I wanted. The Star Guardian invasion was an excellent game mode that really gave me the feeling of fighting back evil. To this day, it is still my favorite event ever. And I am not sure Riot will ever be able to beat it unless they release another PvE event. The game mode brought in exactly what I hoped it would. A scenario where you had to complete different tasks, instead of just fighting back endless waves of enemies. And it made players think about their champions. They had to learn how to maximize their potential in a controlled environment. People realized that the best AD carry for that scenario was Jinx building Jinsu's Blade, followed closely by Miss Fortune, who offered some CC on top of that. Every champion had their super strength and pretty bad weaknesses, and every champion had a different role for that scenario. Soraka and Jenna protected the carries. The carries kited all the powerful creatures. Ezreal sniped down all the annoying Vel'Kozes. and Poppy protected everyone from the big guys. I hope we get this game mode back, and I hope we get some rewards for beating the hardest difficulty, because only a really small percentage achieved that. However, besides the Star Guardians, what I'm still looking for is a permanent game mode where you can go and chill without stressing out and competing against other people. But who knows, maybe Riot will surprise us. But now let's go to the present times and let's talk about features that I would like to see in League in 2018. Obviously, in the 2 years since my last Riot Please, a lot of the bigger issues I had are now gone. That means that the features that we are going to talk about now have far less of an impact on the game, if any. I just want to prepare you for the fact that you will think that at least one of my ideas is very dumb. Riot is at a place where the key parts of League are set and they work. They are now working on fleshing out the parts the community is talking about. This could mean special skins, special rewards for unique activities, or even creating new game modes and experiences. So with all that said, let's have a look at 5 things I want Riot to do. Being the lore nerd I am, nearly all of my requests will be based around story. At my current number 1 spot is tying champion reworks into the story. I'll give you an example of where it could have worked in the past, and where it will work in the future. When Sion was reworked, Riot could have kept his story as it was in the updated world. Riot could have kept him as a warrior of Noxus held together by only questionable technology. Remember that back then it was the professor who worked on Urgot that put Sion back together. But that changed a long time ago. Riot could have let Sion have his part in the story, let another champion slay him in battle like Garen or Jarvan. And finally, after the battle, Sion would be brought back to the Black Rose where they would attempt to bring him back one final time without the technology, but with blood magic. Not only would this continue Sion's story, and no retconning would be required, but this would also explain why and how he visually changed. I feel like Riot is missing on incredible opportunities by scrapping the old champion stories, instead of using them to push the champion forward. In the future, when Riot finally decides to update Pantheon, I pray they decide to finally kill a character in their world, and that Pantheon will be the first. We know that Riot doesn't want to kill their champions in their stories, because someone who really likes that champion would be mad that there will be no more stories with them. But let's be honest, by having 120 characters, everyone having plot shield, and everyone being immortal, you can't make a world where it's exciting to see your champions fight, since you know that everyone will be okay in the end. I really hope that one day Riot decides to step away from that, and they let our heroes fight for real. But until that happens, and if that ever happens, they can kill one of their champions and make it work. Pantheon. Pantheon in the story is just a human whose body was claimed by the aspect of war. That human body was then turned into its avatar. And when Pantheon dies, the aspect of war can simply replace its body with another chosen human. The current Pantheon we have was known as Atreus, a warrior from the Rakor tribe. What Riot can do, and what I really want them to do, is that they can let Pantheon die in a battle and replace him with a new Pantheon. I really want Riot to let Pantheon die against the Void, because that is Targon's mortal enemy. And when that happens, not only can you give Pantheon a Void corrupted skin to reflect on that story, because the Void would corrupt and take over his body, but you can also justify changing Pantheon's visuals because a new body will take his place eventually. My second request to Riot is that I would love to see some new races in League. When you look at all the different champions, at first glance I'm missing some race variety. And I know that we have the Vastaya and we have Yordles, but come to think of it, that's about it. Every time a new kind of champion arrives on Runeterra, it is always a demigod or a legendary creature, or a special new Vastayan tribe unlike any other. We don't really have another established race in League. A race that would be represented by more than one champion, something normal that would be able to compete with the humans. For example, why don't we get another troll to let us know that there is a variety of trolls in Freljord? And don't start with the because he would look like Trundle argument. You can make a troll shaman or magi to make him different. I just feel like all the variety we have is a human or a creature unlike anything else we have seen. I know that Riot is trying to have their fantasy world different, but I'm missing the feeling of having elves, dwarves, or something like that that isn't just humans from different continents. A race that would be represented in the world a bit better. Right now we have the Vastaya, out of which everyone looks like a different animal, so it doesn't seem like a singular race. The Void, where all the creatures are mindless, and the Yordles, about which we don't know anything. The closest thing we have to a widespread race are the Darkin. It feels great having more than one character of the same unique species in a game, even though it is rare to see Aatrox and Ras together these days. And ultimately we know that we can't get more than 5 Darkin in League. So to close this off, I also wish Riot made the Iceborne look a little bit different. Maybe if the original affected Freljordians had blue skin to reflect the Watcher's influence. That would give us a nice variety as well. My third request is a squad or a team story. As a big fan of the Mass Effect series, I always loved watching lives and relationships develop as people went on different adventures. I feel like this is currently missing in League of Legends. Champions very rarely interact with each other in their stories. And when they do, it's either very briefly mentioned there, or it is only in the bigger stories, such as recently in Confessions of a Broken Blade with Yasuo and Riven, or previously in For Demacia with Lux and Garen. I understand that when a champion's bio is updated, that champion is the core of their story. But sometimes it would be nice to see multiple champions in a single story where everyone is in the same spotlight. An awesome example of this would be if Azir's resurrection was written as a standalone story. You had Sivir and Cassiopeia who delved into the tomb. Then Cassiopeia betrayed Sivir and the spotlight shifted to her. That was immediately followed by the release of Renekton and Xerath, who would both have their part. And finally it would be finished with Azir and Sivir. For the future, I really hope that Riot bonds the Demacians together a bit more. I would love to hear about stories of Lux, Garen, Xin Zhao, Jarvan and Shyvana together, hunting evil mages scattered around their lands. And when Galio pops up out of nowhere, or when Shyvana transforms, that's exactly what I would love to see Garen react to. My fourth request would be about Runeterra. Recently Riot tried to kickstart some bigger events, and they teased a lot of possible shifting in the world. But so far, nothing has really changed, and it doesn't seem like it will anytime soon. When Swain was teased, I hoped that there would be an invasion based on the Medarda map. After all, we had the Progress Day story, a story where Noxians were trying to infiltrate Piltover for quite a while now. But even now, almost 2 years later, nothing has happened. Instead of invading Piltover, it seems like Noxus may attempt to invade Ionia for the second time. And who knows when that happens. All I really want is the world to shift. Something that will make me think, remember when Piltover was a neutral city? Or remember when Basilish wasn't occupied by Ionian protesters? Or remember when Shurima wasn't pushing on the southern borders of Demacia? I feel like the world of League of Legends is in great need of a change. The longer you keep the world the same, the more you run the risk of people losing interest. If by any chance Riot really decides to expand the trolls and let them go into war, as Trundle says, and I know that this is just a Lord of the Rings reference, they could let the Freljordian trolls push back on the gates of Noxus. Just any major world change will do. And my last request, PvE. I still think that PvE scenarios based on lore would be by far the best way to get people interested in the story. Imagine a Star Guardian-like scenario where you pick a Demacian champion and go hunt some witches and dark mages. Or pick an aspect of Targon and go kill some void spawns. Or pick a Shuriman Ascended and go kill some void spawns. Seriously, League is throbbing with PvE scenario opportunities. Here are some examples. The Vastaya fighting back Zed students. Piltover repelling Noxian spies. Freljordians forcing back the returning Watchers. Bilgewater champions repelling monsters boarding their ship. Or maybe be the evil guys. Shadow Isles champions hunting down Yorick. The Darkin devastating Central Valoran. The Yordles protecting themselves against human prejudice. There are so many different scenarios. Riot, get on it. But that's about it for this video. I mainly wanted to make this video so I have something to look back at in a couple of years and see if anything changed. It is still awesome to see that Riot fixed pretty much everything on my old list. Apart from PvE, that could be better. So maybe in a year or two I can cross some of my requests off this list. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to rate it and subscribe for more lore and news. If you'd like to chat, our social media, Twitch, merch and P.O.Box will be in the description. Of course, massive shout out to our Patreons for going the extra mile. You guys are my safety net in these awkward times. And with that, thank you all so much for being here and for your support, you know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you come again.